I just feel like after today, it'll all been worth it, hopefully, if I don't fall flat on my face, that is.
Previously, I've kind of the adrenaline's got to me, and I've ended up being a bit shaky, which isn't a great look when you're trying to be on a TED stage. Today, shakes weren't there, adrenaline was okay, mind blank.
I was just about to, they'd like say, oh, welcome Katerina Johnson, everyone's clapping. And I was just about to walk on, I said to the stage guy, can you make sure they've got the first slide up before I go on, because they had to change the computers. Yeah. And he was like, it's not up, stay here. And I was like, okay. And then like, they were clapping, and then they stopped clapping, and then it was like really awkward silence. And then Liu was like, okay, I'll go and fill it in. And then he was like on the radio mic to the others, being like, have you got it up? Yes. And so Liu had to do like a 5-minute spiel, and I was just like, am I going on?
This evening we have just gone through the 72 TEDxFolkestone 2019 applications, and we've been here for roughly about 2 hours or so, having reviewed everyone's videos, read through their application form, and had some really great debates about who we think is really interesting in engaging.
At the moment, we're looking at speakers individually. We're looking at their talks, their ideas, how strong they are. When we get down to our final 10, we have to be mindful of the fact that these 10 speakers and 3 performers are going to go out through the course of the day. So there has to be a broad range of topics, of ideas, a good mix, because there can be really strong ideas, but if it's very similar to something else, unfortunately, we have to make that really tricky call about which one of 2 great ideas is going to go through. It's a tough process, but it's got to be done.
Hi, I'm Joanna Rawbone, trainer, coach, facilitator.
Hello, I'm Rob Anderson, and I work in IT.
Katerina Johnson, and I'm a biologist and science communicator from the University of Oxford.
At this point, I have a very good idea of what the main point will be, but I don't have the structure or the flow or any of the contents yet.
I don't have the structure yet. I'm leaving myself free to be guided by that.
How do I make this relevant to the audience? Because it's a bit of an abstract concept that I'm going to be speaking on.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've watched quite a lot of like TED Talks to pick up ideas and things to do, but like obviously to keep my own kind of individual angle and style as well.
I think the main thing I took away from that workshop with Alex was around how much practice and rehearsal time I'm going to need, how I need to practice kind of the whole breathing and the vocal tonality, things like that. And the structure, actually. He did a really good session on structures.
I felt it was really useful for kind of thinking about how we were going to structure our talk and kind of the main messages we want to get across and kind of how the audience will interpret that.
The course that I teach actually culminates in doing a TED-style talk. There's not a lot that I personally have been picking up from these sessions, but I feel that it's been very good to be here as part of the community, to build the relationships with the other speakers, and to be supportive of the whole endeavor.
As much as, and I mean this with no disrespect to anyone in the room, just being really honest, as much public speaking as you've all probably done, you haven't done a TED Talk.
That's exactly right.
And it's completely different. And please don't take for granted, well, I can speak, ergo I can do a TED Talk, because the people that do think that do TED Talks.
At the TEDx Mastermind, it was really helpful hearing other speakers' experiences in the past, and also, I guess, like how you feel on the day, because you can prepare your talk as much as you want, but then it's kind of an unusual scenario.
And it was Britt, a previous speaker, talking about really knowing her talk inside out. She gave a really great technique, which was to learn the talk kind of in paragraphs and linking the end of one paragraph to the beginning of the next, so that then you always knew what was coming next. So you hadn't had to learn the whole thing. You just had to learn these paragraphs and how they linked, and that was a genius technique.
One of the things that a lot of people took away from that was the permission to be yourself and to tell your story. Because I think a lot of people, when looking at doing TED Talks, are thinking they need to be something they're not. And it was really refreshing to hear. Just be yourself, tell your story.
I talked earlier about practicing my speech, and I've practiced it 0 times so far.
The past few weeks, like, my talk has got like more solidified. So yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I know that like the nearer you get, like, it'll be a bit nerve-wracking as well.
I'm feeling quite daunted again in that feels quite close, but I'm trusting the process because the TEDx Folkestone team put on a really professional kind of process here, so I'm trusting the process.
They help me to understand what the average person viewing my TED Talk might be thinking, which is something that I'll need to incorporate into the final draft of my talk.
I've started to understand what other people's talks are about, and therefore I can give more useful critique and also offer ideas and support.
The reality of it hasn't quite sunk in yet, so I think the blind panic will be coming later.
I think on the whole I'm in a good place. Pleased that there's a deadline looming for when we need to get our final script in. So I'm pretty happy about that. Ask me again in 2 weeks and I'll tell you where I am then.
Initially, I had misread the brief. So basically, I thought the brief was, why are you doing a TED Talk, as opposed to why are you doing your specific TED Talk? And so I had initially prepared a few notes on why I wanted to do a TED Talk as opposed to why I wanted to do my specific TED Talk, and I pivoted okay, but it wasn't nearly what I don't think the other participants got as much out of my talk because of that. I thought it was fantastic seeing the red circle for the first time. It really made it real for me. It just invigorated me and really reminded me that this is becoming real.
Like, it's a bit tricky because you have to make sure you don't step outside without like looking down, so you have to kind of always be aware, but like, yeah.
One of the things that I've appreciated about the other speakers is that they've given me a good test audience in terms of the average person instead of the techies that I tend to hang out with. And if they're struggling with the concept with one of my talks, then I need to really listen to it.
I'm excited about doing it. Like, I've done it to like some friends and people at TEDx, and people seem to enjoy it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the opportunity. I know, like, a few weeks before, I'm like, oh, like a bit nervous, but like, yeah, I'm predominantly looking forward to it.
First third, awesome. Middle bit, slightly dodgy. Last kind of third, about 90% there.
Since the initial idea, my talk has stayed quite similar. I mean, I've adapted it a bit in response to people who I've practiced it on. So sometimes it was quite useful because I'd practice it on like a scientist and someone who wasn't a scientist, and then someone would be like, oh, I love this bit, and someone would be like, oh, I don't understand. I'm like, oh, okay. So I need to like make sure. But yeah, generally, it's close to what it was when I first envisaged it.
I know my talk. I can't necessarily recall it all in the right order.
I think the rehearsal went overall really well. There was one part where I had lost my way, and it's the area where I knew I was going to anyway, and I tried to prepare for it, but I just didn't prepare enough for it. And it's a good learning experience, so I won't do it on the day.
I'm actually kind of in awe of the talent and the kind of skills of these people. So it's been a brilliant day, brilliant day.
I guess the key thing to focus on is kind of delivering it, because that, as well as what you say, that's like, you know, half of it really, or half the impression that the audience get in how you deliver it, and just kind of trying to be relaxed, well, not relaxed, but like not be really scared on the day.
My nerves are starting to build. I'm trying not to let it get to me. It's got a great lineup today, and I'm excited, but I have to say I'm at that point now where I'm kind of looking forward to it being over.
I'm feeling rather well, considering that it's been about a 3.5-month journey for me from finding out that I first was accepted to today. And I just feel like after today it'll all been worth it, hopefully, if I don't fall flat on my face, that is.
If it's going to go wrong, it needs to go wrong on dress rehearsal. Mine did. I didn't really expect it to go that long. So fingers crossed for today that I've got it now sorted and I shouldn't need too many prompts today. Fingers crossed for me.
Katerina Johnson.
Robert Anderson. Joanna Rawbone.
Yeah, it was good. I was pleased. It went really well. I remembered everything, and the audience were really lovely and laughed when they were supposed to. And yeah, it was really good. So I really enjoyed it, and it's a bit harder because you have to look up, but you can't see all the people in the back row. But you could kind of make out people, and I could see my parents and stuff. So yeah. No, I'm pleased.
Before I got on stage, I had to get rid of adrenaline. I was shaking so much, so I was backstage flicking my hands, kicking my legs, because I really could feel the adrenaline and I could feel me getting a bit shaky. By the time I got on stage, I was still a bit shaky. But you know what? That's fine, because Liu did a great introduction for me. She said about just being on stage as an introvert is a big thing. So it kind of gave me permission to be nervous up there, which was fine, so I could be a bit vulnerable. I heard my voice crack at one point, but it was an appropriate time, so it felt good. And I got all the way through it. I missed out one little bit, and I moved a bit around without thinking. But compared to where I was yesterday, it was awesome.
I think the talk went really well today. I managed to get through it without having to be prompted. I felt like everything flowed naturally, and I really connected with the audience. And as other people have said, I think the interaction with the audience was just key for being able to deliver such a good performance.
If you think you've got an idea worth sharing, apply. Because you never know until you're in the process whether it's worth sharing, and the whole process helps you refine it anyway. But so many of us have ideas worth sharing, but especially if you're an introvert, think, oh, nobody would be interested, or I won't bother. But actually, they're the very people we almost need to hear from. The people who are used to doing this all the time, kind of we've heard that. What we need to hear from are the people who wouldn't normally put themselves forward. So, is it about getting out of your comfort zone? I don't think it is. I think it's about expanding your comfort zone so that things that were previously uncomfortable become comfortable.
TED Talks are all about the power of the idea. And so what is it that you are thinking that could change society and this world that's powerful enough to share with the global audience?